Greetings, friends and fellow daemons, and welcome to Daimonosophy. So, the JJ Simple conversations that I've been putting out there have got me thinking along certain lines of questioning, and it's probably no big secret that these are lines of questioning that extend back and have been developing for some time, bearing much fruit, I might note. But one thing I noticed uploading those videos onto YouTube got me into the algorithm of a series of videos that are all called Kundalini Awakening or My Kundalini Awakening, or something of that nature. I'm always interested in hearing about other people's experience, so I watched some of them. And you know, the thing about this experience, which some people call a Kundalini Awakening experience, and I am more inclined to refer to this in terms of second awakening. And there's a few reasons for that. One reason being, Kundalini is a word like religion or meditation. It's a word that's so loaded with people's associations from like different things that it's a sticky word. You don't know what anyone thinks when they speak it. And seeing these Kundalini Awakening videos, case in point, as far as the variety of subjective impressions that people can attach to a word like this. So there's a passage in Secret of the Golden Flower, which I feel is a central resource on this, one of the most solid historical resources, really, on the subject of a second awakening. There's a passage in it where it talks about the life of man is like unto a mayfly in comparison with the great cosmos. And it goes on to give the sense of scale in regards to time. Because a mayfly is a creature that lives for one day. He wakes up as his life begins. That's his first awakening. And then he lives his life through a cycle of sun and moon, and then he perishes. So within that cycle of his life, there's perhaps moments of where he rests for a few seconds, a few minutes, and maybe that counts as a form of sleep for him, and then he has an awakening within there somewhere. But he has that first awakening, and that's his like coming into being in the world. So man, in comparison to a mayfly, wakes up at the beginning of his life, he sleeps every day, and has an awakening in the morning, a small awakening, but really he's like generally asleep through most of the days anyhow. State that, you know, Gurdjieff referred to as relative sleep. So really he has that first awakening. Sun and moon, like the rotation of the sun, this is often said like represents a breath in the life of the sun. The rotation of the moon is a breath in the life of the moon. And these entities live much longer than man does, even though man, in comparison to the mayfly, lives a long time. and they have that first awakening, and they're coming into being or moving into that war. However planets are born is kind of beyond me, beyond my scope right now. But the idea of the second awakening is the idea that that in addition to your birth, that's your first awakening, most people don't have any other awakening other than that. Whereas second awakening means that something new is activated within you. Some new level of consciousness is activated, and then it goes to work on other things within your organism, within your being, and that's a second awakening. And so that thing is sometimes called Kundalini, or serpent power, or in Golden Flower it's called the primordial spirit, and the ancient Greeks called it the daemon, or the daimon, which connects it back with why we're talking about it here on this podcast, which is devoted to this idea of the daimon. I don't want to berate anyone's experience. People share their experience. I mean, that can take incredible courage to share your inner experience, and it can be very difficult to do. So, getting back to what I was saying at the very beginning, you can't really judge someone else's experience. You don't really know what's going on in someone else. Aristotle famously said that, famously criticized Plato's theory of the forms, saying you can't offer totally subjective information as evidence for something, right? Like, I can't offer, something that just went on inside my mind at a completely subjective level, like a dream, and say, that's evidence out here in the real world of something. That's fallacious. And a similar thing is going on here. Although I do think that people can recognize certain common terminology and a certain essence or certain feeling with others who are vibrating at a similar frequency. Now, of course, you can't tell any of that shit watching someone on a YouTube video. And to just put it out there, a lot of these testimonies, what they're talking about is really indistinguishable from mental illness or some kind of serious delusion or drug-induced delusions. A lot of the stories do involve drugs. This goes back to something that JJ was talking about, and really was that was the whole essence of his presentation, this paper that he wrote, is that trying to find what are the real signs. Are there true signs of a Kundalini awakening, his terminology? And the two things that he talks about are, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, that there is a involuntary change in one's sexual behavior or energy inclination, and there's also an involuntary change in one's diet. And when I say involuntary, that doesn't really describe it, because someone going through an awakening isn't necessarily drug kicking and screaming into it, although maybe that does happen sometimes. But these are two things. These are two things that happen, and that has been my personal experience, and that is what other people who I worked with and who I trust have like also testified to that, and I think there's something to that. The other thing, and so I don't hear these people talking about it on these Kundalini awakening things. I don't really hear anyone talking about those things. Another thing that I felt is missing is the 100 days. I don't hear people really talking about that they went through a period of just focusing on regular meditation, watching the breath, those really basic things that the method talks about. But of course, this is a prelude to it, so it's not really a sign of it, because there's lots of people who meditate and they don't experience an awakening. I think there's also a category of people who do meditate and experience awakening, and they just haven't articulated it, because they will experience those other two key things that I mentioned, as well as they will experience some of the generalized sense of harmony, sense of precognition, for lack of a better term, prater, for knowledge or enhanced intuition or something like that. So there's different things that happen there, and then I do think it happens that people do awaken it without having gone through that. And so in one sense, I think this is part of the teaching of Golden Flower. And this is totally Gopi Krishna's experience. This is totally what I understand him to be prescribing, is that the period of learning to bring discipline and stillness to the body through meditation, through daily meditation over a significant portion of time, and he did it. I mean, Gopi, he did it for like over 20 years, maybe 30 years, a long time before he had what he considered an awakening from it. But that activity, that starts to change things. Just once you start to like flip to where your body is not like rejecting it, just like you learn to ride a bike, you learn to sit still for 15 minutes, half hour. Just getting to that point, that starts to change things. It changes that rhythm through life, right? That rhythm of from the day you're born to the day you wake up, the rhythm of day by day is like changed to a different tune just from that act. And that act can help to unlock that awakening, but also that work helps you to be able to deal with the awakening, to deal with that awakening experience, because there is a there's a chaotic element to it. I don't know any better way of saying it. And there is like this little chaotic element to it. There's choices made that it doesn't really seem like it's yours. But it does. It does and it doesn't. So there's a little bit of chaos that's involved with it. And being in a place where you have some discipline and some control, and you have a centered being, is going to help you tremendously to do that. A lot of people talk about the negative side of it. So this is a thing Gopi Krishna talks about. He had a big negative, like his awakening at first was like terrible, and he got sick and he was afraid and everything fell apart, until he started listening and changing his diet. But that's the other thing. It must have some kind of value or relevance to your real life. And sometimes I think maybe folks like this, maybe they did like awaken something, and maybe it's because they don't have any kind of like meditation practice, or anything else to like gravitate them, that the experience sort of just like pulls them out there, and they're just kind of lost with it. And you know, that's why you need that grounding. And in the kind of meditation, in the golden flower, where you're calming the thoughts, you're focusing the attention, you're trying to ease the stream of association, not flying around in the stream of association and trying to imagine it and make it bigger, and looking at things and in your stream of association and saying, oh, that's real and it's happening in a new universe. Looking for communications like that. Not doing that, but like focusing attention just on the breath and inside, on what is really inside, on the sensation within being. The breath that brings energy in being, the movement up in the back and down in the front, that's like that occurs with the circulation of attention, or circulation of light, circulation of attention. So I am working on writing a new book. The title of it is called Second Awakening, and I'm not sure when it's going to be out yet, but I'll be talking more about it on these, and I'm going to be sharing some pieces from it, pieces and parts, on the Patreon, and possibly eventually on my Sakaki blog, which I haven't blogged on since COVID lockdown started. Can you believe that? So anyhow, let's get on to it, and let's keep those dark fires